This conference will now be recorded.
Of Matrashitaya in our last Swadhyayam. So let us start today's session. Chadurmukha Samarambham Vakbhadajarya Madhyamam Asmadajarya Vadyandam Vande Guru Parambaram Ragadirogan Sadadanushaktan Asheshakaya Prasrudan Asheshan Aulsukyamoha Aradidan Jakhana Yopurva Vaidyaya Namostu Tasmai. So we just started Adhado Matrashitaya Adhyayam Vyakhyasyaamaha Idi Hasmahu Ratreyadayo Maharshayaha. So in this initial Gadya Sutram itself, it is quite interesting to note what Hemadri is commenting. Of course, Arunadatta also starts the chapter very well. Coming to Hemadri in Ayurveda Rasayanam, he is commenting like this. In one of the previous chapters, we find Aharo Varnidas Tatra Tatraja Vakshyade. So now the time has come to explain about Ahara. When we were discussing in one of the earlier chapters, Ahara, Nidra and Abrahmacharyam, these are supposed to be the three pillars. We were explaining the Nidra and Abrahmacharyam. So Aharam was pending. So now we are starting it in this chapter. Okay. And then Hemadri continues. It is in the first page, page number 147, previous page. Then Ada eva matrashidiyah. That is the contextual significance of yes, that is it. That is the contextual significance of this chapter. Then he continues, Matra Shabdena Samyak Yogo Lakshyate. That is very important. Matra Shabdaha Samyak Yogaha. Matra, mitam, matra. So generally, there is a false notion that when we say mitam, it means something very little. It is not so. Mitam and this matra does not mean that very little. Matra shabdena samyak yogo lakshyate. Such a asamyak yogasya tyagad sambhavati. How the meal, annam, aharam, becomes samyak by avoiding all the potential possibilities of asamyak yogam. You can make sure that it is in the samyak status. So we should know, if we have to avoid asamyak yogam, you should have an understanding about what that asamyak yoga is, or which all possibilities of asamyak yoga are there. So he is listing them out. That is very interesting. Sa punaha saptadha. Asamyak yoga is of 7 types. What are they? Sangirnashanam, Viruddhashanam, Amatrashanam, Ajirnashanam, Samashanam, Adhyashanam, Vishamashanam cha iti. So these are the 7 possibilities of asamyak yoga asana. So we have to have the intelligence to avoid these 7 possibilities which we have listed out. Now he is explaining what is the meaning of each one of these Vishamasana possibilities. Sorry, Asamyagasana possibilities. Tatra Nishiddhanam Grihe निषिद्धैः वा सह निषिद्धं वान्नं यत्र भुज्यते तद् संकीर्णाशनम्. That is what we call as Sankirnasanam. What is it? Nishiddhanam grihe. Nishiddham. It is something like a forbidden. Something which is suggested as forbidden. So, taking the food in a place, in a residence of somebody who is facing some sort of a nishedham nishiddham, a forbidden house, a forbidden person, a forbidden family, something like that, for social reasons, which need not be universal and which need not be applicable through all time sectors. It changes with changes in place and time. Here we have seen this sort of ideas in the form of advices earlier as well. So here we find Nishiddhanam grihe. Then Nishiddhaihi saha va. That is another possibility. Along with the forbidden people, or Nishiddham vannam, a forbidden meal. A forbidden meal. Something which should not be taken, isn't it? That also has got cultural, social, etc., etc., pressures or ideologies behind it. So, nishiddhanam grihe, nishiddhaihi va saha, nishiddham channam yatra bhujyade tad sankirnasanam. That should be avoided. Then, see, from the second chapter, that is Dinacharya, he is giving one line for our recollection. Shatru Satra Ganagirna Ganiga Apanigashanam. So this Shatru Satra Ganagirna Ganika Apanigashanam is a Sangirna Bhojana. All those items, all those possibilities, all those occasions, all those foodstuffs are included in Sankirnasanam, which is an asamyag aharam and should be avoided. Then Viruddhasanam. Viruddhasanam. We have seen Viruddhasanam of many types, like Desha Viruddham, Kala Viruddham, Samskara Viruddham, Samyoga Viruddham, many things. Hrid Viruddham. Some 13-14 types of Viruddham is very elaborately, meantime very precisely, to the point, explained in Charaka Samhita. We all have learned it. So that is the Viruddhasanam, which is a type of Ahidasana. Viruddhamapi chaharam vidyadu vishagaropamam. And consuming this Viruddhahara can cause many types of vyadhis. And the only exceptions given is Vyayama Snigdha Deeptagni Vayastha Balashalinam Virodhya Vina Pidayai Satmyam. That also is conditional. Satmyam Alpam Cha Bhojanam. Anyway, in general, Viruddhasanam is an Ahidasanam, Asamyag Asanam, and should be avoided. Then Amatrashanadini Atra Uchyande. This Amatrasanam, etc., which was listed, that will be explained in this chapter. Matravadabi yanna jiryadi tad ajirnasanam. Even though taken with care in terms of the quantity, if one aharam, one type of meal or food is not getting digested, then that should be considered as ajirnasanam. Samasanadini atraiva lakshayishyati. Samasanam, adhyasanam, and vishamashanam. That will be discussed in detail. So that way, Hemadri suggests 7 types of ahita or asamyag asanam for the sake of taking care. Because if we get indulged in this type of practice of eating these sort of asamyag annam, we are going to put ourselves in trouble. So that is why this chapter called Matrashitaya is becoming significant. Then we come to the topic which we have already started in our last session. Matrashi sarvakalam syad. So that is a highly generalized statement, some sort of a vachanam. Matrashi sarvakalam syad. It is ideal or it is better to be in matrashanam always. Sarvakalam. Sarvakalam, in our previous session, we explained it as in all annakalas, no exceptions. Here we can find it is explained as swastha as well as adura. So there is no separation, no discretion. That means the swastha, I am swastha, so I can have a little bit of amatrashanam. It doesn't matter. It's not going to matter. It is not so. Swastha as well as adura should stick on to the rule that matrashi sarvakalam syad. Why? What is the significance? Because matrahi agnehe pravartika. Agnehe pravartika. Agnehe pravartika means agnehe swavyapare pravartika. It is Matra which is going to make sure that the Agni functions well. Actually, it is not the Matra, because Matra is a guna. It is the Matravad Annam. It is the Matravad Annam which is going to be critical as far as the functional status of Agni is concerned. So, Matrahi Agnehe Pravartika. Matram dravyani apekshante gurunyapi laghunyapi. Guruni laghuni api dravyani matram apekshante. Guruni laghuni api dravyani matram apekshante. So here we divide the entire ahara dravyam into 2. Number 1, guru. Number 2, laghu. We may recollect that this Guru, Lakhu are the names of 2 Vipakas as explained by Sushruta. Guru Vipagam or Madhura Vipagam and Lakhu Vipagam or Kadu Vipagam. And the logic behind the division of Vipagam into 2, that means Guru and Lakhu, is purely dependent upon the easiness with which a stuff is going to be digested in Agni. So that is the criterion actually. How easy, how comfortable, how fast it is that a stuff is getting processed by the Jadhara Agni. If it is very easy, very fast, very comfortable, then that Dravya is known as Lakhu Dravya, having Lakhu Vipaka. If it is very tough, very time taking and causing a lot of discomfort, then such a stuff is known as Guru Dravya, having Guru Vipaka. So both this Guru and Lakhu Dravyas are dependent upon their Matra. Even the naming is based on this Matra. Guru one stuff, one point of naming one dravya guru is its swabhava. Another one is matra. Same is the case with the laghu as well. It is discussed somewhere else in the in one of the areas of Dravyadi Vijnaniyam. I do not know whether we have discussed Dravyadi Vijnaniyam. Otherwise, we will come to it later. Anyway, so Guruni Laghuni Abhi Dravyani Matram Apekshande. So that is the Pradhanyam, importance of Matra. And then further to this shloka, there is a jitnasa. How it is matram apekshande, gurunyabi, lagunyabi, matram apekshande. So how is it? What is that rule in this regard? So to address that jitnasa, Vagbhada writes, Gurunam artha sauhityam, laghunam nadi truptada matra pramanam nirdishtam. Gurunam ardha sauhityam, Gurunam ardha sauhityam, laghunam nadi truptada matra pramanam nirdishtam. So here the matra of Gurudravya and Laghudravya is defined, and interestingly that definition is highly subjective, highly personalized. So sauhityam means the level at which that the feeling of fullness, tripti, satisfaction comes. That is sauhitya, satisfaction. I'm done, I'm happy with this, that level. So as far as a Guru Dravya is concerned, Ardha Sauhityam can be considered as the Samyak Matra. Ardha Sauhityam. That means you should not go consuming a Guru Dravya beyond the half mark of your Tripti. That means you can see capacity wise, you can take 50% of what you have, another 100% of what you have taken. That means total is divided into 2 and only 50% is taken. That is supposed to be the optimum. Another 50% also can be taken, that is kept empty. That is Ardha Sauhitya. That is the ideal one in terms of matra as far as a Guru Dravya is concerned. So it is highly personalized. See what is the level of tripti. You cannot make a standard. These days, actually, I was discussing with one of my colleagues today about the trend of tool making. So if you make a tool for research purpose or so about the matra of annam, it is going to be very tough because all the measures explained are highly subjective. Artha Sauhityam. What is one individual's level of Sauhityam? You cannot standardize it. You cannot standardize. So Ardha Sauhityam is one individual level of, dependent upon one individual level of satisfaction. Laghunam tu na aditruptata. Na aditruptata. You can have trupti. You can have the Sauhityam, Purna Sauhityam, but don't go beyond that. Aditruptada cannot be tolerated. So this is supposed to be the Matra Pramanam for Guru Dravya, Guru Annadravya, and Laghu Annadravya. That is how it is, or that is why it is told that Matram Dravyanyapekshande Gurunyapi Laghunyapi. Then one more statement. How can I understand that this is the Ardha Sauhityam? Because see, when you say that, okay, this is the Ardha Sauhityam, you should have an idea about what is Purna Sauhityam. Then only you can have an understanding about Ardha Sauhityam. To know how much you can take to get Purna Sauhityam, you should have at least once enjoyed that level of Purna Sauhityam. So it is again a puzzling situation, because this Sauhityam has got a mental element as well. If you are taking a very delicious stuff which you really crave for, I think the level of Sauhityam may not be purely physical. There will be a mental element into it. If the stuff is quite which one you dislike or quite disgusting, I think then also an element of mental influences come there. So always this Sauhityam has got a physical sense and a mental sense, a bodily aspect as well as a psychological aspect. So it is a very, very complex situation to judge. So it is one point is added. Sukham yavadha hi jiryati. So it should not be just a calculation that, okay, this is only half I have taken, or I have taken the full, I will not go beyond that. It is not about a speculation, but about sukham yavad hi jiryati. Only that much can be digested properly. So there is a question again. If you look into Ashtanga Sangraham for the same chapter, Matrashitaya, you will find a little bit different idea from what we have seen in Ashtanga Hridayam so far. What is that? In Ashtanga Sangraham, we find Matra Punaha, there is a statement, Matrashi Syad. Be a Matrashi, always. Even that Sarvagalam is not used. Matrashi Syad. It is ideal or it is advised to be a Matrashi. Matra Punaha, how this Matra is understood? Matra Punaha, Agnibala Aharadravyavekshinī. So he divides it into two. Matra is decided by two things. Number one, Agnibalam of the individual, and number two is the Aharadravya Swabhavam. Certain things are Prakriti Guru, certain things are Prakriti Laghu. So even a Prakriti Laghu Dravya can be acting as a Guru Dravya for a person who is having Agnimandya. Similarly, if the Agni is Adidipta, a Prakriti Guru Ahara itself may be working as, or may be responding as, a Laghu Dravya. So Ashtanga Sangraha comments that Matra Punaha Agni Bala Ahara Dravyavekshinī. Then this Sukham Yavad hi jiryadi we find in Ashtanga Hridayam, and Vakbhada in Ashtanga Sangraha explains how this sort of matra can be perceived, say maybe at an individual level or in a more objective level. Is there a tool? Is there some methodology? Are there some questions which I can ask to an individual to know whether that Jaranam has happened properly, so that we can fix the matra for this particular individual about this particular stuff. So what are those questions or what are those points? Kukshehe apradipeedanam aharena. Kukshehe apradipeedanam. You should not feel your kutshi, abdomen, as if it is tightened by somebody. Pradipeedanam, kept tight because of the bulk inside. So apradipeedanam, you should not feel like tightened by the ingested food. Then hridayasya asamrodhaha, hridayasya asamrodhaha, you should not feel as if your hridaya desham is asamrodhaha. So you should not feel the samrodham on your hridaya desha. Samrodham, it is occluded or stuck, pressurized, blocked. You should not have that feeling of hridaya samrodham. Then parshvayoho avipadanam. Parshvayoho avipadanam. Parshvam is that area where this parshugam ribs are situated. That is why it is known as parshva, where there is parshugasti. So you should not feel that chest cage stretched abnormally as if it is getting unnecessarily pulled out because of the pressure from the tummy. Then anadigauravam udarasya anadigauravam. Udaram can have gauravam, but not anadigauravam is the point, which no adigauravam. So the abdominal area or abdomen as such, or the stomach region, you should not feel very heavy. You should not feel very heavy. Then preenanam indriyanam preenanam, preeti. All the sense organs should feel so sort of comfort, satisfaction. They are ready to work for another period of time, no issue. So if there is alpamatra, indriyas will not feel that richness of energy, the abundance of energy. If it is in excess, they will feel very lazy. They will start withdrawing from themselves from the indriyarthas of corresponding nature. Then shut pipaso uparatihi. Shut pipasa uparati. The meat, the urge or that demand for food and water should be properly met with. Uparati, they should subside. Sthanasana, shayana gamana, uchvasa, prashvasa, bhashya, sankathasu, sukhanuvrittihi. So if you have taken your food in an optimal matra, you should not feel it difficult to have to engage yourself in different activities like sitting somewhere, then shayanam, then standing somewhere, lying down, gamanam, walking, uchvasanam, nishwasam, bhashyam, speaking, sankatha. In any of these activities, you will not feel exhausted. Then sayam pradascha sukhena parinamanam. Sayam pradaha. So here only two annakalas are envisaged. So whatever you take in the morning, in the pradhak kalam, by the next annakala that should be properly digested. That is one criteria of matrasanam. Similarly, whatever you have taken in the sayannam, second annakala, should get digested properly by the next annakala. That means next day's morning meal. Sukhena parinamanam. Then balavarnopachayakaratvancha iti matrayaha lakshanam. Balavarnopachayakaram. Balakaram, varnakaram, upachayakaram. Balam, you should have strength. Varnam, you should have the proper complexion. Upachayam, you should have proper nutrition. Nutritional status of the body. That should be proper. So, in this description, apart from the highly personalized version of a speculative type, we find somewhat more specific from which certain questions can be drafted, can be asked, maybe with a very objective type of answer marking, and you may be able to come up with a better understanding of what is the matra effect in individual in a given situation. Okay, so that should be looked into from Ashtanga Sangraha. Now, back to Ashtanga Hridayam, we find next sloka from whatever is explained. Down in that commentary, Gurunam Artha Sauhityam Laghunam Nadi Truptada Matra Pramanam Nirdishtam Sukham Yavat Vijityadi. We can find Hemadri quoting the school of Gharanada. What is that? Yadabhyav Hridam Samyag Yatha Kalam Jaram Vrajed Prakritya Vikritim Krutva Tanmatra Lakshanam Viduhu. That is also interesting. Even though it is a very simple thing, there is some important point put inside. What is that? Yad abhyavahridam samyag. Yad samyag abhyavahridam yatha kalam jaram nayed. Yatha kalam, that means at least by the next meal, the next time of next meal, next annakalam. Sukham, samyag jaram rajed, properly digested, and pragritya vikritim krutva, in that process of that jaranam, prakritim avikritim krutva, the prakriti avastha of the doshas, maybe dosha dhadumalas, should not go deranged. Prakritya vikritim krutva tan matra lakshanam viduhu. Then that is known as the matra of that particular foodstuff specifically, or the matra of that particular person. So that is also very interesting observation, that prakritya vikritim krutva. Then bhojanam hina matram tu na balobhajayaujase sarvesham vadaroganam hedudam cha prapadyate. While we are explaining this matra, we find that there are two possibilities or three possibilities. Samyag, heenam, adi. Samyag is arogyam. Heenam and adi are anarogyam. Vigriti. So there is a question, or there is a jitnasa. Tell us something about heenamatra bhojanam. What is the problem of heenamatra bhojanam? So it is addressed, that question, that jitnasa is addressed. Bhojanam heenamatram tu bhojanam na balobhajayaujase, is not sufficient for giving the optimal balam, upachayam and ojas. Balam, upachayam and ojas. There will not be strength. Balam, upachayam, nourishment of the body, and ojas. Ojas is something like balam itself, but having different shades of meaning and different forms of manifestation other than balam, ojas. And what is the problem of Heenamatra Bhojanam? Sarvesham Vadaroganam Hedudam ja Prapadyate. Sarvesham Vadaroganam Hedudam ja Prapadyate. So that is also a very serious concern about Heenamatra Bhojanam. So it should not be Heenamatra. While we go through the Vadavyadhi Nidanam, we find this explanation. That means Dhadu Kshayagareihi Vayu Kupyatyadi Nishevitaihi. Dhadu Kshayagareir Vayu Kupyatyadi Nishevitaihi. So this Heenamatra Bhojanam is one reason of Dhadu Kshayam. One reason, one cause of Dhadu Kshayam. So that acts as a Dhadu Kshayakara Karana. And obviously it initiates a Vadavyadhi Samprapti. Which Vadavyadhi? That depends on many other factors. Dhadu Kshayakareir Vyadhi Kupyatyadi Nishevitaihi Charan Srodasurikteshu Ghrisham Tanyeva Purayan. All these things we have seen in Vadavyadhi Nidanam, in Nidanasthana. So here Heenamatra Bhojanam is becoming a cause for this Dhadu Kshayam, and that initiates a Vadavyadhi Samprapti. Bhojanam Heenamatram tu na balo upachaya ujase sarvesham vadaroganam hedudam ja pravadyade. So that is the disadvantage of, or the risk, or the adverse effect of Heenamatra Bhojana, which should not be entertained. Then what about the Adimatra Bhojanam? That is the next question. So we will find what is the issue of Adimatra Bhojanam. Adimatram punaha sarvan ashudoshan prakopayed. That is it. Adimatram annam or bhojanam punaha. When we talk about the Adimatra Bhojanam, ashu, very fast, sarvan doshan prakopayed. Sarvan doshan prakopayed. It is not just about one dosha. It is not about two doshas. It is about all the three doshas. Sarvan doshan ashu kopayed. Sarvan doshan ashu kopayed. Then when there is dosha kopa, there will be a sequence, a series of events that can happen to most of the times to initiate a vyadhi, sometimes to start with maybe a chayavastha causing various types of presentations which need not be essentially a vyadhi, but if left unattended, which is going to be a vyadhi in due course of time. So here one word is very important, that is it ashu. What we are going to explain here in this Adimatra Bhojana Upadravam or Adimatra Bhojana Janya Vikaram, we should understand that This is a Ashu episode. This happens very fast. Then what is that possibility of this Ashu Samprapti? Pidyamana hi vadadya yugavat tena kopitaha amena annena dushtena tadevavisya kurvade vishtambhayendo olasagam chavayendo vishujikam adharottara margabhyam sahaseva ajitatmanaha. I'll read it once again. Pidyamana hi vadadya yugapattena kopitaha amena annena dushtena tadevavisya kurvade vishtambhayendo olasagam chavayendo vishujigam adharottara margabhyam sahaseva ajitatmanaha. So tena amena dushtena annena pidyamanaha vadadyaha. So here there is an excess in terms of the capacity to be processed by the Agni. When it goes beyond that capacity, we call it as Adimatrashanam. So here there is Adimatrashanam. So practically the Agni is some sort of a put under pressure. It fails. It's not a total failure, but temporarily it fails. So what happens? This aharam is not getting processed. So it is known as amam. So it is ama annam. That means apakwa, unprocessed annam. Then it provokes all the three doshas, and what we are going to see is that the three doshas provoked by the presence of this ama annam in turn is going to get entangled with this stuff which is left unattended, that ama annam. So practically there is a morbid or a vicious loop which is already set inside. So yugapad kopitaha vadadyaha, yugapad, together, kopitaha vadadyaha, vadapitta kapham. What is going to happen? Tadeva avisya kurvade, tadeva avisya, this vada pitta kapha in turn start getting attached to the ama dushta annam. Tadeva avisya kurvade, something is going to happen. What is that? Vishtambhayando alasagam chavayando vishujigam. So if you put this into a flow chart, here there is a bifurcation. One is alasagam, second is vishujika. In the case of alasagam, vishtambhayandaha alasagam. Vishtambhayandaha. That means it is go to the stage of vishtambham. It is stagnated. It is not going to move. Stabdham. It is stabdham. Vishtabdham. That is one possibility. It is getting stuck in the srotas, in the mahasrotas. Another possibility is Vishujika. What is the Vishujika possibility? Adharottaramargabhyam chavayandaha. Adharottaramargabhyam chavayandaha. Adharamargam, uttaramargam. That means through the lower and upper orifices. Chavayandaha. Chavanam happens. It is getting expelled. So there is vomiting as well as purging. Chavayandaha Vishujikam. So the name of that particular condition is known as Vishujika. So two possibilities. Alasakam, which is Vishtam Bhayandaha. Second is Vishujika. Adharottara Margabhyam Chavayandaha. And again, that Ashukarita is specified as Sahasa Eva. This can happen immediately. One more word. Ajidatmanaha. Ajidatmanaha. Asamyama. Asamyata chetasaha. Because this sort of Adimatrashanam is supposed to be a Prajnabaradha. An action without intelligence. An action where the control is lost. That is why he or she did it. So it is something like that lack of intelligence. That is Ajitatma. That person is known as Ajitatma. So here we find in this 5 lines the possible ways of manifestation of an Adimatra Annam and an immediate response of getting unprocessed. Adimatram punah sarvan ashudoshan pragobayed pidhyamana hi vadadhya yugapattena kopita amena annena dushtena tadeva avishya kurvade vishtam bhayando lasagam chavayando vishujikam adharottara margabhyam sahasaiva ajidatmanaha. I hope the idea is clear. Then next line, just for a clarification of ideas, the author comments or explains. Prayadi nordhvam nadhastad aharo na cha pachyate amashe lasibhutaha tena saha alasaka smritaha. Amashe lasibhutastena solasaka smritaha. One possibility, by the way, we explained that adharottara margabhyam chavayandaha. But the other instance, it was vishtambhayandaha. In that vishtambhavastha, what is happening? Prayadi na urdhvam prayadi. It is not getting its upward movement to get out by vomiting. Na adhastad prayadi. Na urdhvam prayadi, na adhastad prayadi. It is not getting moved downwards to get purged out from the body. Then, meantime, despite its presence in the amashaya for longer time, it is not getting processed because Agni is on a temporary phase of failure. Aharaha nacha pachyate. Then what is its fate? Amashaye alasibhudaha. Amashaye alasibhudaha. So, alasatvam, nishkriyatvam. Hemadri explains. Alasatvam, nishkriyatvam. Actually, it is more it should be explained in a more lucid manner, I think. That alasagatvam or nishkriyatvam points out a state of stagnation, lack of movement in terms of its structural status as well as its physical level. It is literally getting stagnated in that particular area. Nacha pachyate amashaye lasibhudaha tena saha alasakaha smrutaha. So that adharottara margabhyam chavayandaha vishuchika vishtambhayandaha alasagam, and in that alasagam it is prayadi northvam nadhastad aharo nacha pachyadi vishtambhayandaha amashe alasi bhudaha tena so alasaga smrutaha. Then we have to find out what is the fate of or what is the nature of Vishujika. That we will see in our next session. Otherwise, we will not be able to discuss maybe 1 or 2 questions if we have something to discuss. Okay, bye.
Sir, one question is there.
Yeah.
I will read it out.
Okay.
Is there any significance of the two different words, Sauhitya and Trupti? Are they used as synonyms or they have some gradation in meanings?
Generally, there is no gradation of meaning. They are used, even in literature, they are used as synonyms also. When you go for searching the meaning of Sauhityam, you will find that okay, Suhitasya bhavaha karmava Sauhityam. And Amrakosham or something like that, such texts give the explanation as Trupti. So the meaning of Sauhityam is Trupti. So generally, they are used as synonyms. Okay.
Thank you so much, sir.
Okay.
Are there any more questions? Sir, next
Yes.
the question is, sir, please explain Alasak again.
Alasaka. Alasakam, as I explained earlier, it is a state of some sort of an stagnated annam in the amashayam, where Agni is not active to process it, and the stuff is not moving upward or downward. So practically it is stuck. It is stuck in the amashayam. Amashe alasi bhudaha. The word used is alasi. Alasi bhudaha. So that alasi bhudata means it is some sort of a nishkriyata. It has become inert, no movement. So actually, you know, this alasata, in all states of amam, the same thing is happening. Amam is actually a state of stagnation. But amam, I'm not bringing the word amam at this point because amam is used in a more technical sense in a different prakarana, which I think we have already explained it in our previous sessions, that ushmana alpabalattvena dhadu madhyama pachitam dushtama. So here also there is ushmanaha alpabalam sometimes, or because of the excessive use, that is the difference. There, for some or other reason, there is ushmanaha alpabalam. Here, even if the ushma was intact, even the person was a swastha, because of that asana lubdhala, that indulgence, That is why here it is known as ajitatma. Uncontrolled excessive consumption of the foodstuff has created a crisis inside, a crisis of the stuff getting stagnated, unprocessed, and it is not moving up or down. So the body fails to throw out the unprocessed, stagnated food stuff. So it is known as alasakam. Okay.
Yes, thank you, sir.
Okay, fine. Alasaka arm in Mahasrodhas only. Generally, by definition, it is happening in the Mahasrodhas only. But when similar situation happens in some other areas also, you may call it as Alasaka. But more technically sound definitions or names are there in such situations. So we limit the use of alasagam for the mahasrodhas only. And alasagam is an acute condition. It is not a chronic condition. It is an acute condition. Okay,
Okay.
fine. So we will stop today and we will continue with our the remaining portion. That means the uh, Vishujiga onwards in our next session. Okay.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Shubharatri to all of you.
Shubharatri, sir.
Question.